Hi everyone, my name is Christina Torak. I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Microsoft. Today we're going to be talking to you a little bit about Microsoft 365 Live Events.
Hi, and I'm Lorena, a PM in the Stream Live Events team.
All right, so let's jump in. Again, thanks for joining us today. We're going to spend some time talking about Microsoft 365 Live Events. And I'm sure as many of you have experienced recently with all of our events now moving online, we're trying to find new ways to connect leaders and employees and to help maintain those relationships, and also use live events as a way to make more effective communications across your business with your own customers, with your partners. And we're seeing live events really help companies start to scale and reach everyone in new and impactful ways. I think the three primary use cases that we've seen really start to show up in our customer base is the CEO broadcast to employees, not just CEO, I should say leaders in an organization. It's more important than ever that employees are staying informed and aligned to some of the strategic directions that companies are taking. So live events really help to create that connection. Also broadcasting to customers for a lot of the same reasons, keeping your customers aware of things that will impact them. And then within your organization, the smaller teams, the departmental broadcasts, those have become a staple, not just a once a month, once a quarter, but a lot of companies are doing these broadcasts every other day, weekly, to keep people informed. So with live events, I do like to point out what I think is a difference between the way that we talk about meetings and the way that we talk about live events. You'll hear both sometimes used interchangeably. So with meetings, typically it's one-to-one or one to a smaller group of folks. And in meetings, people tend to have shared levels of participation. Anyone can speak, anyone can share their screen. With a live event, live events do tend to be to larger groups of people, hundreds, thousands of people. And there's more of a curated experience where the presenter or a few of the presenters control the audio, the content, and they own that audience interaction and how they can participate. So today we're going to be talking a lot about the latter. When you are setting up a live event in Microsoft 365, you have the option of using either Teams, Yammer, or Microsoft Stream. And across these apps, you have a couple different scenarios for the type of production you'd like to do. If it's a simple setup, for example, you can just share your webcams, share your screen, and get started broadcasting to thousands in a couple minutes. Some people like to have a more highly produced, very customized experience, and for that you can deliver events with studio grade capabilities that connect to multiple audio feeds, high-end cameras, and different sources. And across all of these live events, there are some consistencies. You always have the option to have the kind of dialogue that you want to have with your audience. For example, if you want moderated Q&A versus more of a rolling conversation, that's an option. If you don't want to have any kind of conversation, you just really want to do a true broadcast and maybe even take your event and embed it in a custom web page, like maybe your SharePoint intranet, that's also an option. So today we're going to go through all of these examples. But before we jump into some of the demos and the setups, I want to talk a little bit about planning ahead of your event. And so some of the things that you want to think about when you do have an event coming up is, number one, what tools is your organization using today, and what do you plan to use over the next few months? Some organizations, for example, have just adopted Teams and already know that they would like to use that. Other organizations may not plan to roll out Teams, and so Yammer or Stream might be a better option for their platform. So that once you've thought about that, the second thing you want to consider is, where is your audience? Does your audience reside within your organization? Is it a small group? Is it the entire company? Or is your organization outside of or is your audience outside of your organization? And so as you think about that, some of the different ways you can interact with Teams is you can broadcast outside your organization. So you can use Teams to reach your customers, to reach your partners, to reach people that aren't within your Office 365 tenant. Yammer, on the other hand, is a great tool to reach across your company, because a lot of Yammer communities are company-wide. Holding live events there makes a lot of sense. And then after you've thought through that, the third thing you need to consider is the type of production you'll want to use. And I talked about that a couple of minutes ago. Do you want to use just a shared webcam experience, or do you maybe have a third-party encoder that you want to use to customize the different screens and layouts and cameras that you're going to be broadcasting in your event? Lastly, once you've thought through those three, you want to think about the type of online interaction that you have with your audience. So in Teams, for example, live events there leverage a moderated Q&A experience where the presenters and the host and the organizers have control of the submitted questions that come in, what gets published, what doesn't, what remains private, and how they respond. And then on the other side, in Yammer is a great tool for ongoing conversation and dialogue, and that's not any different if you're doing a live event. And so if you do want this conversation that can live on for a long period of time, Yammer is a good tool. And then lastly, I would say some organizations just want to have a broadcast. They have no need for Q&A or discussion around this. They just want this broadcast to be from the people presenting out to the employee base, and then Stream in that case is a great option. And as I mentioned, the idea of embedding Stream into a SharePoint site or some other intranet site is a great option if you want to meet your employees where they are. And before we jump into demos, just two other things. Event planning and work back schedule is something that you should think about starting maybe a month or so before the event. And I won't go through every item on this chart, but I will say, a few weeks out, start to think about what are your business goals. Think about the questions that we just went through, those 4 questions, so you can determine the right tool for you. And then set up your event, get the invites created. A couple weeks before, start promoting that event. Also make sure that you are working with presenters to get their content set up, to understand what needs they have. If they're planning to share their screen, if they're planning to use a webcam. And then about a week out, that's when you really want to start finalizing things. So at this point, hopefully you've already done a couple test runs. If not, this week prior is a great time to do some test runs with the technology. Do a dry run with the presenters, make sure the content works, make sure the webcams are optimized, the audio sounds good. And then during the event, I would say first thing, join early. Make sure that all the presenters are okay with sharing their screens, their audio still sounds great, and get that event set up. And then after the event, we really focus on and kind of reviewing attendee reporting, editing down that recording if you need to, and Lorena will show you a little bit about how to do that. And something else to consider, I think, which is very important. It sounds like a given, but a lot of people don't really think about this ahead of the event. Make sure that each role for the person that's going to be participating in the event understands their responsibilities. So for example, you may have an organizer who's setting up the event, a producer who's the person actually managing the controls of the event, and then of course one or more presenters. And for the presenters, you want to make sure that their primary role is presenting, because you don't want them to get distracted, you want them to stay on task. And then also consider having, as a best practice, 1 or 2 people assigned as what I would call a moderator. And this is somebody that can help monitor the Q&A and respond. In Yammer, perhaps this person is monitoring the conversations and then taking some of those questions and asking them out loud to the presenters at the end of the session. So make sure that those are really carefully outlined. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and change gears a little bit, and I'd like to show you an end-to-end setup, production, and delivery of a Teams live event. And so we're going to go ahead and just jump in. Here on my screen, you can see I'm in my Teams calendar. And in my Teams calendar in the upper right corner, I'm going to go ahead and click on Meetings, and I'll see an option for a live event. Once I select that, I get my dialog box to go ahead and set up my live event just like I would a meeting. I'm going to go ahead and add a title, pick a time. I'm also going to go ahead and add my speakers and bring presenters directly to this invite and select the role. So here I'm going to go ahead and select the presenter role for some of the people that are going to be presenting. I am going to remain a producer. And then the next step in the scheduling process is determining where your audience is. And we talked about this a little bit before. So I'm going to do a organization-wide event here. And so I'm going to select that option. I could also select public, which means that people outside my organization could watch this event easily. After that, I'm going to select the production type. So since I'm just going to be using webcams and slides from sharing my screen, we're going to select this first event here. And also the options for Q&A, making the recording available to attendees. And then when that's done, and this is a pro tip here, after you get it scheduled, you're going to see the calendar invite. In your calendar invite as the scheduler, you're going to see a place to grab that attendee link. The attendee link is different than the link that's actually in the calendar invite as you scroll down. Make sure you take that attendee link, and that's what anybody who is not a presenter or producer or moderator will get. And so put that in a calendar invite and send that out. And that's it. That's how you set it up. So day of, I'm going to come in and I want to get started, and I'm going to show you the production of a live event. So here I'm on my calendar. I'm going to open up that invite that we were just looking at, and instead of grabbing the attendee link, I'm going to go ahead and click join as the producer. So here I'm dropped into the event, and on my screen, the first thing you're going to notice is two black boxes. The one on the left is the content that is what I would say, quote unquote, on deck to be shared next. And then on the right hand side, that's the attendee view. So you always know what your attendees are seeing at all times. I'm also going to go ahead and show you a couple other options that you have here. On the right hand side, I can see the live event Q&A button. So this is the way that attendees can share questions and feedback with presenters. And the presenters, moderator, and the producer have the option to publish these questions or respond privately. So it's up to them to make that decision. And there's also a back channel chat for just the presenters and for anybody that's helping out with the event. And this is great if you are about to start the event and may want to send a chat to your presenters or that group of just a couple people and make sure that the audience isn't seeing any of that. So once I'm ready to go ahead and start the event, then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to open my share tray. I'm going to click on some content and I'm going to add that into the queue. And once that's in the queue, I'm going to go ahead and click to send that live. And now you'll notice a couple different things. On the top of my screen, I have a red indicator that says live, so you know as a producer or a presenter when the content is being published to your attendees. You also can see here that I have a couple other options below the queue on the left-hand side, and I wanted to point this out because today in Teams live events, there are two different layouts you can have. So the one we're looking at now is just sharing my screen, but you do also have the option to add your webcam. So you can share your webcam and present from your screen at the same time so the attendee has that dual view. And then after the event, I simply click end and I get a link to my recording. I have reporting that is available to help me understand how many people joined the event and their participation. So very briefly, I do want to show the attendee experience. And so you can see how somebody either within your organization or maybe even somebody outside your organization that doesn't have Teams will get into the event. The invite that you send to them, they'll go ahead and click and open that. They'll click on the attendee link that you shared. And when they click on that link, depending if they have Teams or if they are in their web browser, a page will open and they will go ahead and if it's an internal event, they'll get authenticated and they'll be joined into the event. If it is a public event, then there is no authentication today. And what that means is anybody that has that link can click and go ahead and jump into their web browser to start watching the event right away. I hope that was a helpful walkthrough of setting up a Teams live event. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Lorena to dive into some more demos.
Thanks, Christina. So Christina just showed you the Teams live event quick start experience. I'm now going to go ahead and show you the producing with an external app or device through a Yammer live event. So I'm going to go ahead and start in the Leadership Connection community in my Yammer. This is where a lot of the conversation has been happening about the CEO and about other conversations that are relevant to her. So this is the natural place for me to go ahead and create this live event. So I'm going to click this Create Live Event button right here and add a name. This is going to be a CEO Connection live event. I'm going to add myself as the presenter. And I'm going to leave this producer portion blank. And then in the description, it's just going to be something easy like welcome to the CEO Connection. And next. So as you can see here in the producer options, you can have the option to produce with Teams or with an external app or device. This is the option that I'm going to select. And this is the option that actually allows you to have more customizable layouts through the encoder and also allows you to have different views if you want to connect different cameras and things like that. So it allows you for a higher production type of live event. And as I'm creating this live event, you can see that it's going to start and put me right into the producer experience here. And what I'm going to do next is what you would normally do in this case is that once the event is ready to be set up, I could go into this view, and as the producer, I can go ahead and start setup. So I'm going to click on this Start Setup button right here. And I'm going to grab this ingest URL from the encoder and connect my encoder. In this case, I'm using OBS as the encoder. What an encoder does in this case is it pushes the feed, the image that you see here, into my Yammer live event so that the audience can see this feed. And as you can see here, I already have this feed ready to go. I am pretending to be showing the audience the weather, but let's just say this is a CEO Connection feed. And earlier, I had already copied my ingest URL, so I'm going to go ahead and go to Settings right here and paste in my ingest URL. Apply and OK. And once I'm ready, everything looks good to me. I can go ahead and start streaming. As you can see, this square in the encoder actually shows me that it's green. So I'm just going to go back to my Yammer live event. And it's going to take a few seconds for it to start connecting. And while I'm connecting right here, I can actually show you what the Yammer feed looks like. So in this Yammer feed, you can allow your audience to engage with the live event. So let's say I'm an audience member and I want to ask a question. I can go ahead and type it straight on here. Let's say, Patty, what is the top of mind for you this month? And I'm going to go ahead and ask the question. And what this does is it posts to the Yammer feed, and it allows other audience members to see this question, like the question, comment on the question, and it also allows the moderators or presenters to be able to see this question and type an answer if necessary. As you can see here, my encoder feed is ready and connected, and once everything looks good, I can go ahead and start the live event. And as the live event starts, you can see that this is showing exactly what the encoder feed was. And once I'm ready to go ahead and stop the live event, this can be done easily through this producer view. So I'm going to end the live event right here. It was very successful. I can go in, answer questions as they happen, but as I end the live event, I'll confirm. And this will go ahead and end the live event in the meantime. As you can see, the conversation persists. So this will live on after the live event has become a video on demand so that people that may have missed the live event can go ahead and watch it. Now there's some really cool options for a producer that I want to go ahead and show you on the Stream tab right here. So this live event from Yammer will then show up, once it's ready, it will show up in the My Content section for people to watch on demand. But something that I wanted to show you actually was some of the editing options that we have for this live event. So say I had some kind of slate at the beginning before the live event started, and I actually want to trim that because I don't want people to see that part for 10 seconds or 5 minutes or however long that slate was available. So I can actually go ahead and trim the live event directly from Stream. The way that I do that is I go to my content and I'll click on the 3 dots here, and it allows me to trim the video. And once the video is loaded, you can see how I can actually select where I want my video to be trimmed. So I don't really like this part. I'm going to go ahead and trim the end. And once I'm happy with it, I actually want to keep the tail as it is. I will go ahead and click on apply. What that does in the back end is actually start processing the video so that it's trimmed. And once the trim video is available, it will automatically update this. It will automatically update this video with the new trim video. Another option that I want to show you is the option to replace the video. So in many cases, we have producers needing to replace the video because they want a different kind of content, or there was a mistake in the kind of content that was shared. So they could go ahead and easily replace this video. So for example, take this CEO Connection Contoso results in this case. I actually don't really like how this speech shows up, and I actually want to go ahead and replace this with something else that I have in my files right now. So I can go ahead and click on More Actions again and click on Replace Video. And the difference between replacing a video in this case and uploading a new video is that all the metadata in the backend is persisted. So all the view counts, all the likes. In this case, I can go ahead and browse, click on this Given Campaign Kickoff, which is the actual video that I want to go ahead and share. And once it's ready, I can go ahead and replace. What this does in the backend is it'll start the replace process, and once it's ready, it will automatically show the new video. As we are talking about live events, there's another super cool feature that I actually want to bring up to you. We know that live events is top of mind, but we actually have a new way to create videos in Stream, which is the record screen option. What this does is it actually allows the user to create a recording of your screen and share that with your audience. This can be used, for example, as a training mechanism on how to create a calendar event on Outlook or how to create a live event. And this is a very easy workflow that you can actually start right from Stream. So in this case, I went ahead and clicked on Create and Record Screen. And once I'm ready, I can go ahead and start recording. This will then prompt me to select which application window I want to go ahead and share. And in this case, I actually just want to share this Outlook tab right here. So I'm going to click on that and share. And once I'm ready, I can actually go ahead and say, hi, this is a training video on how to share my screen and how to create a how to create an Outlook calendar invite. And once I'm ready with that, I can go ahead and pause the recording and press next. This will then show me the recording that I just created. And once it's ready, I can go ahead and upload to Stream for all of my audience members to see. So now that I'm ready to upload to Stream, I can go ahead and add a name for this video. So how to create an Outlook event. And I will go ahead and publish this video. And that will actually allow anyone in the audience that I selected to be able to watch this event. All right, so now that we've shown you the 2 demos on live events, I want to show you a little bit of how it works under the hood. So let's go ahead and take a peek. When a user comes in, you can go ahead and start scheduling the live event through Teams, Stream, or Yammer. And once you're ready to have the production set up, you can actually choose between 2 options. You can choose between produce using Teams or produce using the external Apper device, which are the 2 demos that we showed you earlier. Then once all the previews and setups are ready and everything looks good to you, you can go ahead and click on Go Live. On the back end, we actually call Azure Media Services, and this leverages Azure CDN in the back end to be able to deliver the content through the cloud. If you're using your company's internal network and you have ECDN set up, you can actually use that for ensuring optimal video delivery inside the network. Again, this is a little bit less relevant because most of us are working from home nowadays, so we're actually watching from different networks. But this is really important if you're watching all within the same company. And finally, from a viewer standpoint, you can come in and watch through a modern browser or any of the 3 mobile apps. So let's take a deeper look at what it looks like to produce an event through an external app or device. So once you schedule the live event and you do the production and push the encoder feed to your live event, what it does in the backend is that it pushes that information to Stream's backend. What that means is the backend is actually where all of the tenant information lives. So this includes your videos, all the metadata, and all that information. This backend is actually regionally deployed based on where all the videos in your tenant have chosen to be stored. And then when the viewer is ready to come in and watch the live event, they actually get routed through a traffic manager to the Stream portal or embed front end. What this does is they start loading the portal of the embed, and that calls our authentication. So this is the Azure AAD. What that typically does is it enables you to sign in. Most of the time, our users are actually already signed in because of a previous app that they've used or because of the connected browser. From then, we actually call the SQL DB to perform a tenant mapping. So what that does is that tells the front end of Stream where the video backend lives. And once we have that information, where the backend tells the front end exactly where the video is located, that actually allows us to load the rest of the portal components. And once the video is ready to be watched and you click play, we actually use cloud delivery to have optimal encoding, dynamic encryption, dynamic content protection, and you play the video through our own version of Azure Media Player. So that was a quick overview of how M365 Live Events works. Hopefully you have enough information to get started. I've provided some of the resources on this slide here. Feel free to reference them to get started today. Thank you so much for joining Christine and I today.
Thanks everybody for joining today.